Okay, today we're going to talk about interpersonal attraction and close relationships. Anyway, okay, chapter 11. There you go. You're only going to see this girl, I think. The one with, oh, they've all got strange colored shoes on. Anyway, the girl with the black hair, the green vest, and the green shoes. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's the one. Among the Padong in the Thai mountains, women elongate their necks by several inches by inserting a number of brass rings around their necks as they grow up. People thought that they were stretching their necks, that they were extending the discs between their vertebrae. But when they did X-rays, this is what they discovered, that instead of elongating their vertebrae, I guess they are to some extent, they're actually they're pushing their clavicle down, and they're reforming their ribs, and that's how they do it. That's why they have such long necks. Among the Mursi in Ethiopia, women stretch their lower lips by inserting progressively larger ceramic discs in a hole that has been cut through the lip. And of course, as you can see, this is what it looks like when the disc isn't in there, and this is what it looks like when the disc is in there. Why do they do that? To make themselves more physically attractive. Mintawi, women from Indonesia file their teeth into sharp points so that they have smiles not that different from a shark. As you can see, ooh, that's hot, isn't it? Okay. So now we have big lips, we have long necks, and we have sharp teeth as a form of physical attractiveness. Oh, okay. There's the blonde. I think this is the last time we'll see her, probably. The Ainu, women of northern Japan, often tattoo their faces in what looks like a mustache around their lips. The Ainu live in northern Japan, as it says. They're actually Caucasian, as interesting as that is. They're not Asian. They're not Asian. They're Caucasians, but they were on the Japanese island before the Japanese were there. As curious as that is. Western women darken their eyelashes with mascara, trim their eyebrows, and paint their lips with lipstick. This is Marissa. She was a former student of mine. That's me right there at Ashford. I think you could probably still go on YouTube. She has a cosmetic thing that she shows people how to make themselves more beautiful. I don't know if she still does it or not, but as you can see, she has painted her eyebrows. She's trimmed her eyelash. I don't know. Anyway, that's Marissa. What kinds of faces are thought to be attractive? There seems to be a striking agreement around the world. Skin that looks free of blemishes, blotches, sores, and rashes is viewed as more attractive than skin that does not, and this is according to Ford and Beach in 1951. But they did the study again in 1986. Montague did the same study in 1986 and found exactly the same thing. So what people are looking for is unblemished skin. People care so much about their skin because people tend to be attracted to healthy mates who would likely produce healthy offspring that would survive. And that, of course, is the point. We're all looking for offspring that will survive. People usually don't think about selecting healthy mates, but their unconscious preferences for traits that are associated with health have been guided by natural selection. Responding to the apparent health of the skin could thus be a useful heuristic for sizing up the health of one's potential mate in the ancestral environment. And as you can see, this is actually the same guy. He looks much better on the right side than he does on the left side, where he has a big pimple. A second characteristic that appears to be universally viewed as attractive is bilateral symmetry. We are most attracted to people whose left sides of their faces and bodies look identical to their right sides. Of course, the bilateral symmetry takes place while the individual is in the womb. The left side and right side actually are formed at the same time, but they are formed in two separate halves and then they come together, as curious as that is. And that's one of the reasons why some people are not as symmetrical. This individual, of course, this is his right side and this is his left side. If you put them together, there's not a picture of what he actually looks like. But we're going to see Brad Pitt in just a second. There he is, okay. Right symmetry, left symmetry, and this is what he actually looks like. So he doesn't look that, I guess he does look pretty much different. This is, I can't think of her name. I can't think of her name. Bilateral symmetry is an indicator of developmental stability. Given ideal growing conditions, and organisms' right and left sides will develop identically. And of course, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for bilateral symmetry because that means that they were given nutritious food during their entire pregnancy. The individual was able to get nutritious food, and nothing negative happened to them while they were pregnant. There's evidence that people prefer symmetrical faces more than asymmetrical ones, and it has been found in all cultures that we have studied. The preference for symmetry is even stronger in hunting-gathering populations such as the Hadza of Tanzania. A third characteristic of attractive faces is that they tend to be average. Facial features that are close to average in size and in configuration are perceived as most attractive. And of course, these are average faces, as you can see. Not really sure why we have. Okay, anyway. I don't know. Men tend to prefer youthful features in women. This is a characteristic called neoteny, so that women are supposed to look young, and that makes them look youthful. And of course, if they're youthful, it means that they can bear children for an extended length of time. So what they're looking for is childlike features, youthful features on the woman. They don't want her to look like she's 30 years old or 40 years old. They want her to look like she did when she was a teenager. Women prefer some masculine features in men. These men all okay. Anyway, the youthful, they're looking for masculine features. These are men that are supposed to be handsome. That's up to you as to whether they actually do or not, I guess. People with average-sized features are less likely to have genetic abnormalities than people with deviant features. Humans can quickly process something that resembles a prototype, and quick processing is associated with good feelings and feelings of attraction. And these are women from different areas. As you can see, this lady's Japanese, this lady's from India, she's from Uzbekistan, Ethiopia, Sweden, Peru, Samoa, and this lady's from the United States, and she is of African ancestry. And here we see the same thing in men. There's a man from Uzbekistan, African American, again, white American, man from China, man from Italy, man from Hungary, man from the Philippines, a man from the Czech Republic. When researchers started mixing the facial features of different racial groups, they discovered that people found the results more attractive than the pure racial groups themselves. The opposite sex found faces of the Eurasian and biracial faces most attractive of all. And this lady is Eurasian. She has Asian and European ancestry. And this, of course, is Halle Berry. Her mother is white and her father is black. Keanu Reeves, his mother is Jewish and his father is Portuguese. And I can't remember. This is a guy off of SWAT. I can't remember what his racial background is, but he's of mixed race as well. He's not 100% of African descent. It is not certain why multiracial faces are perceived as attractive. One account is that people should be attracted to genetic diversity as a marker of healthy genes. Multiracial represents the best average of all the faces the individual has encountered in their lives. This is Aishwarya Rai. Aishwarya Rai is from India, and her grandfather was white, and her grandmother was from India, and she is relatively light complexion. One of the controversies that have come up lately, they have a television show on Netflix or one of the cable channels dealing with matchmaking in India. And one of the problems that they're having is there's a complaint that the lighter complexioned individuals on the show are thought of as more attractive than the darker complexioned individuals on the show, and that's causing a great deal of controversy. The attractiveness of average features does not seem to generalize well to perceptions of bodies. It does not seem to be true that people are most attracted to those of average weight, height, and muscle mass, breast, and hips. Perfect female body according to women is, okay, as you can see, she's pretty skinny. And the perfect female body according to men is, she's a lot heavier. She's a lot thicker through the midriff. She has a larger bust. Her legs are a little bit thicker. Half these people I don't even know. Anyway, Megan Fox's face, Scarlett Johansson's hair. Anyway, this is what men are looking for, and this is what women think men are looking for. It gets equally interesting when it's the other sex. The kinds of bodies that tend to be seen as most attractive are often those that depart considerably from the average. And this is the perfect male body according to women. Harry Styles' hair, Jamie Dorman's face, Brad Pitt's biceps, David Gandy's torso, whoever that is, David Beckham's legs, as you can see. Okay, so this is what male thinks. As you can see, the male concept of what women are looking for is much, much thicker. They have more muscle mass. They have bigger legs. Anyway, as you can see, it's very much different. Women are looking for skinnier men than men think they are. Men think that they're looking for muscle-bound individuals. You can see Hugh Jackman's biceps. You can see the male thinks that the biceps should be larger, and women are actually looking for smaller biceps. In West Africa, the term fat is often viewed as complimentary, indicating strength and beauty, and this is according to Cassidy in 1991. Within the United States, African Americans have heavier ideal body weights than European Americans and feel less social pressure toward thinness. Another aspect of interpersonal attraction is the propinquity effect. People are more likely to become friends with people with whom they frequently interact. Researchers looked at friendship patterns that developed in a police academy. The simple fact of who stood next to whom was more important in influencing police recruits' selection of friends than their personalities, backgrounds, and religious beliefs. So it all depended on who you were near as to who became your friend, as interesting as that is. I tend to make friends fairly easily, but since I arrived at Dene College, one of my best friends there has been Marius Begay, whose office was right next door to mine, and we had lots of nice conversations. Another good friend is Jeremiah Barber, who was right across the hall, and we used to have relatively long conversations. Another is Patrick Blackwater, who was around the corner, but we started having conversations 2 or 3 years ago when we moved into the fob, the sixplex. He was right there, and because he was right there before, of course, I never knew where the hell his office was. Where was his office? business people. I'm not sure where his office was. Anyway, when we moved into the same building, we started talking with each other, and we used to have long conversations, Patrick and Jeremiah and Morris and I. Why? Because we were close to each other, and that's the reason why. Because we're close to each other. One reason that the propinquity effect works is because of a phenomenon known as the mere exposure effect. The more we are exposed to a stimulus, the more we are attracted to it. This has been shown to be true for attraction to other people, foreign words, music, and a variety of inanimate stimuli. The mere exposure effect appears to be cultural universal. Japanese and Americans appear to be equally likely to come to like those people with whom they interact most frequently. And this is according to Heine and Renshaw. Heine, of course, in 2002. Heine, of course, is the author of your book. And we're actually going to see a picture of Heine in at the end of this chapter. People tend to be attracted to those who are most like themselves. This is known as similarity attraction effect. I know we talk about opposites attract, and sometimes that is true, but one of the things we find out when we really look at these people who are supposedly very, very different is that there are select aspects of those people that are very similar. Whether, we think of this as really important, race is hugely important. How can somebody who is one race and somebody of another race really like each other? But the reality is that that isn't the most important aspect. It may be that they can talk to each other. It may be that they have the same interest in music. It may be just tons of different reasons why people who are seemingly different are able to be attracted to one another. My wife right now is from Georgia, and I'm from Indiana. I'm from the north. She's from the south. Strangely enough, during the Civil War, we were fighting each other. As a matter of fact, we figured out about a decade ago that potentially my great uncle, who was wounded at the Second Battle of the Wilderness, was facing her great grandfather's unit at the time when he was wounded, almost mortally wounded, shot through the chest. So potentially, her relative shot my relative during the Civil War. As interesting and strange as that is, but I mean that's real. Our relatives, our ancient relatives, are not the most important things about the two of us. There are other things that drew us to each other. One was we liked the same kind of music. We liked to talk to each other, and those kinds of things. She liked my kids, and I liked my kids, so there you go. Research has sought to determine whether North Americans or Japanese liked similar or dissimilar strangers, showed that North Americans had a stronger attraction to similar strangers than Japanese. In some studies, Japanese show a similarity attraction effect as well, but it is consistently weaker than North American effect. Now, one of the things that you have to remember about Japan is that 98% of the people that live in Japan are Japanese. So they're all the same. As a matter of fact, when they see somebody from another country, say an American, like this African American gentleman, they call them gaijin. And gaijin, of course, I think I've explained this to you. Gaijin means the man who sneaks in the window at night, or the individual that sneaks in the window at night. Anyway. So they see us as different. And of course, they are all of the same genetic structure. They're all Japanese. Researchers have discovered that the most frequent topic of conversation is gossip about other people. Studies that track people's happiness over time find that their happiest times are when they are with others. People's most emotionally wrenching experiences involve the breakup of relationships and the death of loved ones. And of course, this is one of the reasons why the COVID-19 is so devastating to a lot of people in the United States, because we are happiest when we're around a lot of people. So one of the things that has happened, of course, they have limited the number of people that can go to bars, and you're not supposed to be around people that you're not around very often. And this is a really serious problem for a lot of people in the United States because they're used to being around people, and this is how they get along is by being around all these other individuals, and of course. It's causing people to have problems. There have been 225,000 deaths in the United States, and there have been a number of deaths on the reservation, of course. So this has caused a really serious problem, and this is one of the reasons why psychology may be really important in the future. Because we may come out of this thing, and who knows when we'll come out of this thing. But we may come out of this thing with a lot of people with more emotional problems than they had before. Communal sharing, the members of a group emphasize their common identity rather than consider their idiosyncrasies. In communal sharing, every person is treated the same. Each has the identical rights and privileges as every other member of their group. The ideal in communal sharing is equality among all the members of the group. Authority ranking involves the inequality of relationships that people share. Within authority ranking relationships, people are linearly ordered along a hierarchical social dimension. People with higher ranking have prestige and privileges that those with lower ranking do not. Subordinates are often entitled to receive protection and care for those above. The lower ranked members earn less money, are allowed fewer privileges, and are obliged to follow the orders of those above them. Asymmetry underlies all authority rank relationships, and you can think of this in a lot of different ways. Most people probably would not go up to the tribal chairman, the tribal president, I guess you guys have a tribal president, and just say, hey, how you doing, Mr. Nez? Another basic relational structure is equality matching, based on the idea of balance and reciprocity. Reciprocity means we both get the same thing. That's what reciprocity is. So if I give you $5, you give me $5 worth of something. People keep track of what is exchanged in equivalent terms, while equality matching is probably the least familiar relational structure to Westerners. It is quite common in many cultures around the world. For example, exchanging Christmas cards. If they send you a Christmas card, you have to send them a Christmas card. Taking turns in the United States is very important. Exchanging dinner invitations and carpooling. How many times have I driven your kid to soccer practice? It has to be even. Market pricing is another type of relational structure. All features of benefits that are exchanged can be reduced to a single underlying dimension. It's usually money. People expect to ultimately receive something equivalent to what they have given. People normally feel some degree of freedom to move openly between relationships, and this is known as relational mobility. Some people have high relational mobility. They feel that they aren't bound by old relationships and are able to start new ones at will. Other people feel more restricted in their relationships. So they have low relational mobility. Their commitments and obligations to their old relationships are so great that they are controlled by them, and they don't feel the freedom to form new relationships. They view relationships as stable and lifelong that provide both benefits and costs in order to maintain them. And this is one of the ways that cults are able to isolate people from who they were before. They create this new limited or low relational mobility. They can only interrelate with people in the cult. And they can't interrelate with even their families. Relationships in low relational mobility situations are not always positive. Some people really don't get along with each other. If it is not an option to decide that they will not engage with one another, they will continue to have a relationship, though It might be fraught with negative feelings, and this may be the way that you deal with your in-laws. I know I have had problems with my in-laws. I've been married 3 times, and I have actually never gotten along with any of my in-laws. It's not my, well, I can say it's not my fault, but I don't know. Anyway, I don't really get along, haven't really gotten along with my in-laws for some reason. The average American adult reports having a network of 20.76 friends. We are Americans. We have lots and lots of friends as compared to other people. The average adult in Hong Kong has a network of 13.23 friends. The average German adult has a network of 12.75 friends. A common reaction heard among many international people after their first encounters with Americans is how friendly they seem. Compared with people from other cultures, Americans have a rather casual attitude toward forming friends, and this is one of the reasons why. As Americans, we have large networks of friends. Now, we may not be as close to those people as people from Hong Kong or people from Germany, but we have lots of friends. And for that reason, I mean, if you're a German and you've got 13 friends, you certainly aren't going to be nearly as friendly to somebody from the United States who comes in and tries to make contact with you. But as Americans, of course, we can be open because we have lots of slots open for, oops, I'm sorry, I went the wrong direction. Lots of slots open for new friends. And for that reason, we seem a lot friendlier than people from other places. And of course, having lived in Japan and having lived in Japan and Germany, I can tell you this is really true. Americans they like Americans because we're so friendly, but it's really hard to get them to open up to you. Wait a minute. Yeah. In collectivistic context, an important aspect of friendship is to provide each other with advice, and this advice is frequently offered regardless of whether one's friends wants to receive it. Unsolicited advice is common in a variety of collectivistic cultures, such as Turkey and Colombia, for example. It seems to be especially prevalent in Russia. Now, we've said some negative things about Russia, and here's another one. According to BBC journalist James Rogers, and that's James Rogers to the left, you can't really say mind your own business in Russian. You can translate the phrase literally, but the concept is not well understood because they don't mind their own business. They're going to tell you what they think. A study by Chinsova, Dutton, and Vaughn in 2012 looked at unsolicited advice among Americans and Russians and found that Russians were twice as likely to have given unsolicited advice. The amount of advice given by Americans was more likely to be contingent on whether it was requested. The amount of advice given by Russians was unaffected by whether or not it was requested. They will just tell you what they think, and they will give you advice whether you want it or not. In Russia, a big part of friendship seems to be to let your friends know how you think they should be leading their lives differently, as weird as that may seem. When Ghanaians and Americans were asked whether having a lot of friends was good, Ghanaians said it was foolish to have a lot of friends. Friendship to Ghanaians involves obligations, both financial and social. Thus, too many friends could make you a pauper with no control over your life. Research conducted with Westerners has shown that physically attractive people who have a number of more positive life outcomes than those that are less physically attractive, and these outcomes extend across a broad array of domains in ways that may seem patently unfair. So attractive people get things that unattractive people don't get. Essays that were believed to have been written by an attractive author are evaluated more positively than ones believed to have been written by a less attractive author. And that's according to Landy and Siegel in 1974. This is one of the reasons why I don't refer to you guys by your first names. If I did, then there's a possibility that I would be more prejudiced toward males and less prejudiced toward females. I haven't really seen most of you because you're all online, so I don't know whether you're attractive or unattractive. I don't even know if you're male or female. And sometimes it's, you know, if your name's Pat, I guess, it would be difficult to tell if you were, or Leslie. Is Leslie a male name or a female name? Anyway, that's one of the reasons why I just use your first initial and then your last name. The last names don't really mean anything that much to me because I don't really know your families, and I'm trying not to prejudice my thinking while I'm grading you're grading your assignments. I don't want to prejudice it thinking, well, she is this or that, he is that. You know, I don't want to do that. Attractive politicians get more votes than unattractive ones. That's according to Efrain and Patterson, 1974. I have these two pictures. This is kind of an unkind picture of Donald Trump, and that's kind of a really kind picture of Hillary Clinton. The reality is she won. She had more popular votes than Donald Trump by almost 3 million votes. It was like 2,800,000, you know, something like that. Anyway, she had more votes than Donald Trump did. He won it in the Electoral College. That's how he won the election. Attractive children are rated as smarter and better behaved by their teachers, and this is according to Clifford and Walston in 1973. I'm not going to tell you which ones of these individuals are more attractive than others. I'm not going to, I don't really have that way of looking at things. Attractive MBA grads earn more money than less attractive MBA grads, and this is according to Freese et al. In 1991. Attractive criminals get lighter sentences than less attractive criminals. And this is according to Stewart in 1980. From an early age, we learn that attractive people have more desirable characteristics than unattractive ones, such as when we learn of Cinderella's kindness and beauty in contrast to her evil and ugly stepsisters. And there you go. Disney made it look even worse. Some people refer to this as the tyranny of the beautiful, and it has been explained by our ability to discern beauty almost immediately after meeting someone. We will often assume that they have other positive features as well, and this is known as the halo effect. This is Audie Murphy. Audie Murphy, well, I'll show you a picture of Audie Murphy in just a second. This is Jamie Meeks. I think his first name's Jamie Meeks. Now, this is a really interesting picture. And if you think both of these individuals are attractive, then you're not alone. Jamie Meeks was a criminal, and he was in jail. That picture that I just showed you was his mugshot, and they put his mugshot on Facebook for some reason. They put it on Facebook, and when women saw this guy's face, they said, "No way, this guy's not that. Can't possibly be that bad. He's too pretty to be such a to be a gangbanger." He was a Crip. He was a member of the Crip gang in California, in Bakersfield. And as soon as he got out of prison, he's actually released early because he's so pretty, I guess. I don't know. He's actually he became a model, and as you can see, he's got all kinds of gang tattoos, and now he's a fairly wealthy model. And because he's so pretty, despite the fact he's got all kinds of interesting tattoos. I guess that's a new one here on the side of his face. Anyway, Jamie Meeks is his name. And this is Audie Murphy. Audie Murphy, he's not very tall, and that's the only negative thing about him, I guess. And I don't know. I don't consider height a negative. He was an actor, and the reason he became an actor was because he was the most decorated soldier in World War II, including he won, and he actually won the Congressional Medal of Honor. That's the medal on top, and of course he won all these other medals. And he became an actor afterwards. Eventually he died in an airplane crash. But as you can see, he's physically good looking. They used to call him the babyface killer because Well, he does have a baby face, but he was a killer, that's for sure. That's how he won all of his medals, was by being a good soldier. And the fact that he's only 5'4", that may have had something to do with it too. It's not that easy to shoot somebody when they're so small. Anyway, he was a very good soldier, and this is a criminal. I'm not sure what EBK stands for, but let's not even think about it, okay? People from Ghana and the United States were asked whether they were happy with their lives. Attractive Americans were more satisfied with their lives than unattractive ones. The reality is, if you're attractive, people give you stuff. They do things for you. They think more positively of you. If you're an unattractive person, then you don't get those things. You're less likely to be elected to this, or you're less likely to be chosen for that. They would rather see attractive winners than unattractive winners. And that's just the way it is. Now, the strange thing is that if you're attractive, usually you don't even recognize the fact that you're getting stuff that other people don't get. Just like rich people don't recognize the fact that they're getting stuff that poor people aren't getting. It's you kind of overlook the positive things that are happening to you because you're the only one getting them, and you don't want to think of yourself as getting things. You want to think of yourself as earning things. Anyway, so in the United States, that's the way it is. Attractive Ghanaians were less satisfied with their lives than unattractive Ghanaians. Beauty is a commodity in the United States, but it is not in Ghana. I won't go into that. Oishi and colleagues in 2009 studied American college students, comparing those who had lived in one place and those who had moved multiple times. Now, this is really important to me. A lot of you guys have rarely been off the reservation, if at all. But of course, when I had my children, I was in the military, and we moved about every two or 3 years. So we moved them from, let's see, we started out in Texas, in Wichita Falls, Texas, and then we moved to Dayton, Ohio, and then we moved to Lubbock, Texas, and we were in Lubbock, Texas for 7 years, which is a long time. That was 2 tours, and then we moved to Germany, and then we moved to Omaha, Nebraska. So I had to move my kids a lot. Then my daughter graduated from school, and then we moved to California, and then we moved back to Omaha. And then that's where they graduated from high school in actually Plattsmouth, Nebraska. But I moved them around a lot, and there were negatives about it, but there were also positives about it. The movers had more conditional loyalty. In other words, my son was a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. We never were in Pennsylvania, but he was a Pittsburgh Steelers fan because they were winning Super Bowls when he was growing up. And my daughter is a Dallas Cowboys fan. They were winning Super Bowls when she was growing up. It's not like they grew up at different times. It was just that the Cowboys and the Steelers were trading Super Bowls at that time. Anyway, as weird as that is. Anyway, they have conditional loyalty. My son is a Philadelphia Flyers fan. He's a Philadelphia Phillies fan. He's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. My daughter's is a Dallas Cowboys fan. She doesn't like hockey, and she's not really a baseball fan either, but it all had to do with where we were at the time. They had more Facebook friends on campus, the people that moved around a lot. They recognized their personality traits as part of their identity. They preferred chain stores because they knew where things were. It's like going into a Walmart. If you go into the Walmart in Gallup, then you can find things if you go to the Walmart in Bokota, Iowa, because they're put together exactly the same. Cities that tend to have a great deal of mobility, San Diego, Los Angeles, Atlanta, have more fair weather sports fans, higher crime rates with less pro-community action, more large national chain stores. This itinerant lifestyle may make the United States culture different. Los Angeles, for the longest time, didn't have a football team. Now, Los Angeles has, what, 15 million people within 50 square miles of downtown Los Angeles, and it didn't have a football team. That didn't make any sense whatsoever. They had a baseball team. Actually, they had two baseball teams. Yeah, they had the California Angels in Anaheim, and they had the Los Angeles Dodgers. But they didn't have a football team. And yeah, they had the LA Lakers was their basketball team. But they didn't have a football team, which didn't make any sense whatsoever. Now, of course, the team from San Diego is gone. San Diego doesn't have a football team, and they are the Los Angeles Chargers, and they lost today, if I remember. No, wait a minute, they won today. I just happened to be there watching the game. My daughter's a big football fan, and her Cowboys got massacred. In many Latin American cultures, people place an emphasis on maintaining harmonious relationships and on making expressive displays of graciousness, hospitality, and personal harmony. This is known as simpatico. Latin Americans view their self-concepts to be more characterized by traits that reflect simpatico, such as easygoing, respectful, courteous, and agreeable. Latin Americans also expect their interactions with others to be dominated by positive social behaviors and to have fewer negative social behaviors compared with the expectations of European Americans. Latin Americans are seeking harmony. Latin Americans show a clear preference for working in groups in which people strive to maintain a warm and hospitable atmosphere. European Americans, especially Protestants, show a clear preference for staying focused on the task at hand. And this is really kind of interesting. There's a reason why I don't like to put together groups. Some people like it, some professors like it, and some people don't. I don't like it because I like to see people do their own work. Now, I grew up in a Protestant community. I'm not really a Protestant, but I am a European American, and I grew up in a Protestant community, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I have that prejudice against group work. However, there are other individuals that like group work, and one of the reasons they may like it is because of the cultural differences between Protestant European Americans and other individuals. Females, for example, a lot of female professors like to do group work. I don't know if Dene instructors do group work or not, if that is more prevalent. It really all depends on how they were educated. Latin Americans act in more sociable ways than European Americans, and time sampling studies find that they spend a greater proportion of their time socializing with others, as curious as that is. So if you're a boss and you have individuals who are Hispanic, then potentially they're going to spend a lot more time socializing, or more time, I don't know about the a lot part, but more time socializing than if you have all these Protestant European Americans. Humans require such an extended period of costly protective care and socialization that they fare best when they have two parents devoted to providing resources and socializing them. In the ancestral environment, it was likely that parents who did not feel especially strong love for their children were less likely to have their children survive the tenuous circumstance of a subsistence lifestyle. In other words, if you didn't love your children and you didn't really take really good care of them, then potentially they wouldn't make it. They would die. They might starve to death. They might get sick because they weren't getting the right food. They might fall off a cliff and when you weren't watching them. And this is very likely. I was married to an individual who wasn't much of a parent, didn't really enjoy parenting as much as I did. I enjoyed it a lot. I was really good with my kids. and she didn't care that much. And of course it showed. She hasn't communicated with either of my children since 1990. Some strong incentives were needed to keep the parents together so that they could both remain to support the child or the children. According to the reasoning, romantic love was selected as the glue that keeps couples together. Those people who did not develop feelings of love for their partners would have been less likely to stay with them and would have ended up having fewer surviving offspring than those who felt strong feelings of love. One review of ethnographies of 166 cultures found that clear evidence of romantic love is in 89% of them. Historically, the majority of marriages around the world have been arranged by families rather than by couples themselves. Looking at 186 societies, researchers found that Western strategies in finding an appropriate spouse was only seen among 31% of the men and 8% of the women. In a study by Levine and colleagues in 1995, college students from several countries were asked this question. If a man or woman had all the qualities you desired, would you marry this person if you were not in love with them? Half of the students from India and Pakistan said they would marry the person, and 1/4 more were undecided. In other words, only 1/4 of the people wanted a love marriage. Half of the students would accept that person, and 1/4 of them couldn't make a decision as to whether they would accept them or not. Over 80% of Americans, Britons, Australians, and Latin Americans said they would not, and only a small percentage, less than 5% of these countries, said they would. 5%. Now we live in the United States, of course. This is England, that's Australia, and that's all of South America and most of Central America. That's all of Central America and South America. So none of these individuals would accept an arranged marriage. The identical question was posed to American college students in 1967. 65% of the men, but only 24% of the women said they would not marry someone they did not love, and that's according to Kephart in 1967. So what does this mean? Well, I graduated from high school in 1967, and I was first married in 1969. The probability is, if only 1/4 of the women said that they would not marry someone they did not love, then there's a great possibility that the individual that married me in 1969 didn't really like me that much, but she married me for my money or she married me for something. Now, at the time we got married, I was a track star, so it could be that she was attracted to the fact that I was a track star. Unfortunately, things went south after I graduated from college. I joined the military almost immediately, and she did not like that lifestyle to the extent that she was willing to give up her children in order to get away from the marriage. So there is always a possibility, looking at these statistics right here, that there's a high probability that she married me because of my prestige, not because of my because I'm such an attractive and wonderful person. As sad as that is, I know all of you are going, "Oh, that can't possibly be true." But that's the way it works, I guess, sometimes. The likelihood of culture favoring arranged marriage is not determined randomly. It appears to relate to the dominant kind of family structure in the culture. And this is a picture of Donald Trump's second wife. This is Marla Maples. His first wife was Ivana Trump. And of course, he's married to Melania now. But this is his second wife, Marla Maples. I can't remember why I put this picture in here, but I'm sure there was a reason for it. Goode in 1959 proposed that romantic love would become more important in cultures as the strength of extended family ties became weaker. The powerful feelings of romantic love could be somewhat irrelevant or even problematic for marriages in cultures with strong extended family ties. So the stronger the family ties, the weaker the need for romantic love. In other words, arranged marriages. And one of the things you need to understand, I don't know if you've ever been around really wealthy people, but really wealthy people, a lot of times their marriages aren't really very strong. Maybe that's the reason I had this picture. Donald Trump has always been wealthy. He went to elite schools in on the East Coast. Um, so it's possible that his marriages have been more marriages of convenience than marriages of love. That's always a possibility. If we look at the president and the first lady, we don't see a lot of smiles coming out of Melania for one reason or another. Now, I'm not saying they're not madly in love with each other. She just doesn't look at him very friendly very often. And of course, that may have something to do with the type of relationships that you see in very wealthy families. A lot of times, one wealthy person will marry another wealthy person. And this may have something to do with Hollywood and music as well. Um, People who are actors and actresses, they make millions of dollars. And they tend to marry other actors and actresses, as interesting as that is. And one of the reasons that they may do it is because those people, other actors and actresses, understand what they're going through. And of course, melding the two careers together is not always easy. So that may have something to do with it. We can't really call wealthy people or famous people. We really can't. They're more anomalous than you and me and the other 359 million people in the United States. We're not famous. We're not rich, and we're probably looking for something different. As curious as that, I guess it's not that curious. But the reality is, I've known some fairly wealthy people in my time, and a lot of them weren't really that happy with their relationships, but they got into them because they were merging corporations, they were doing this, that, and the other, and the idea was that it's romance isn't important. The other thing is that I had an aunt that was very, very wealthy, and she tried to marry for love from time to time, and she couldn't find anybody that wasn't after her money. And of course, that was the other thing. She always thought that everybody was after her money, including her relatives. And of course, she fooled us all. She didn't give anybody any of her money. She left it to two different organizations, neither one of which was a very nice organization. Anyway, she had a difficult time finding somebody that she liked, and she couldn't tell if people liked her for her money or they liked her for herself, which was kind of sad because she was kind of a neat person. She traveled all over the world, and she was really interesting to talk to, but it was hard to talk to her because she didn't trust you. The Western ideal of romantic love, characterized by intense feelings and mutual absorption, could be disruptive in cultures with large kin networks because such feelings can interfere with people's abilities to respect the wishes of their family members. And of course, this is always a problem. Who's in charge? Is it your family that's in charge, or is it the relationship between you and your significant other, between you and your husband/wife, your spouse? Let's call them spouses, I guess. And the answer is, in an arranged marriage situation, the family is far more important than the relationship. An analysis of data from 117 non-industrialized societies found clear support for Goode's hypothesis, and this is according to Lee and Stone in 1980. Marriages based on love were more likely in cultures with nuclear family structures than they were in cultures with extended families. And of course, the Dene culture is more extended family. It's a clan system, and for that reason, you try to mix the two together, and they really don't go together very well. The relationships is butting heads, and this may be one of the reasons why a lot of people move off the reservation to get away from family. Now, you might say that about me as well. I've never really lived around my family since I got out of college and I first got married. I've never really lived around my family, and I may have done that just to stay away from my in-laws. Many arranged marriages start out with no feelings of love between the couple. However, in time, of course, the husband and wife begin to develop strong feelings for one another. A good analogy is getting a pet and developing strong feelings for the animal the longer you have it. People in arranged marriages describe their experiences in a similar manner. The individual approaches the person as his or her new spouse with the expectation of eventually falling in love. With time, they usually do. With the abysmal failure rate of Western marriages, the assumption that arranged marriages are miserable is probably inaccurate. Most people in countries where arranged marriages are prevalent view arranged marriages as more likely to succeed than romantic marriages. A survey among adults living in various urban centers in India found that 74% of men and women believed that arranged marriages were more likely to succeed than love marriages. And this is, of course, this is 26 years ago. Kishwar in 1994 discovered this. There's also evidence that those in arranged marriages are at least as satisfied with their marriages as those in love marriages. Turkish couples in arranged marriages have been found to be as much in love with their partners as couples in love marriages. And this is according to Hortascu in 1999. Members of the Unification Church participated in mass arranged marriages where partners were chosen in ceremonies that involved thousands of men and women. They literally walked together, and the person that you were beside was the person that you married. That's how interesting this was. Looking at marriages after 3 years, researchers found a similar rate of satisfaction between these couples and the general public, and that's according to Galanter in 1986. Men in Japanese arranged marriages were found to be more satisfied than those in love marriages, and of course this is really old, not Blood in 1967. That was over 50 years ago. I know because I had my 50th high school reunion 3 years ago. That was 53 years ago. Men in Chinese arranged marriages were as satisfied as those in love marriages, and that's according to Zhu and White in 1990. That was 30 years ago. However, women in Japanese arranged marriages were found to be less satisfied in arranged than love marriages, and that's according to Blood in 1967. Women in Chinese arranged marriages were found to be less satisfied in their marriages than love marriages, according to Zhu and White in 1990. This suggests that the costs of arranged marriages are borne largely by women in the Japanese and Chinese cultures. And of course, both are male-dominated societies. And women tend to be, and this is a fairly negative way of looking at it, but women tend to be seen as second-class citizens, and the husband is always in charge. And as you can see, spousal abuse is not uncommon in either Japan, or this is actually in China, but no, that's Japanese. I'm sorry, that's Japanese, not Chinese. Anyway, it's very common in both countries. A study by Gupta and Singh in 1982 compared marital satisfaction between Indian couples in arranged and love marriages. In the initial years of marriage, those in love marriages professed more love than those in arranged marriages. Over time, it was those in arranged marriages who reported having the most love. This pattern held true for both men and women. The study was replicated with similar results by Kumar and Dayani in 1996 and Yelzma and Athapali in 1988. While these results may seem counterintuitive, Heine explains them using an interview with a Japanese colleague who had been in an arranged marriage for 30 years. Now this is Heine right here. We're going to see him again in just a second. There he is again. When they were first married, they had no love for each other. Now they have some love for each other. Some love seems like quite a bit compared to no love. Couples in love marriages typically start out with a lot of love for each other. Years later, it is not surprising that many of them report having less love than they did during their steamy courtship. Some love doesn't seem so great compared to lots of love that they had for each other earlier. And of course, he was talking to a Japanese colleague who had been in an arranged marriage. Heine, of course, is married to a Japanese woman. I guess it's not that obvious. A study in Israel comparing arranged and love marriages found similar results. Those in arranged marriages were found to be as much in love with their partners as couples in love marriages. And that's according to Shacker in 1991. And that is the end of the chapter. So there you go. You guys stay safe, and I will see you, talk to you again next week. Have another fun chapter next week. This is the 11th week, so there you go. This is chapter 11.